to have a threshold of income, $25,000 a year, before they have to begin paying back their Canada student loan. That's going to help. So, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to continuing this debate after our question period session, and I look forward to questions from my colleagues.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Scottish National Party won re-election. As stated by their Prime Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, this is a historic victory. This third consecutive victory for the Scottish National Party is a first in the history of their parliament. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I congratulate them wholeheartedly. We also salute our Scottish friends, particularly those who support their project for independence. When London adopts laws and policies that apply to Scotland, a nation is governed by another nation. For a people, what is more noble than to be able to decide one's own laws and action, to live one's own values, and to decide one's own projects, and to live one's own dreams? That is freedom. In Quebec, there are also millions who dream of liberty and who are working to achieve it. I salute our Scottish friends. Long live a free Scotland.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate a 13-year-old from Saint-André-Avelin, Félix Bertrand, a freestyle skiing champion who lives in the beautiful riding of Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation. Felix won over a dozen medals this year, including 2 gold medals at the Canadian Championship, and he ended the season by winning the Quebec Championship. Felix is now back in his hometown of Saint-André-Avelin, where, at the Quebec Federation of Freestyle Skiing Gala, he received the provincial grand prize of Male Athlete of the Year. And what's more, he just received yesterday confirmation that he has been chosen to be on the Quebec team. He's the youngest person in history to do that. Felix is a proud ambassador for my riding and for this Olympic sport. Once again, all my congratulations and best of luck in the future.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the 350th anniversary of Laval University. A descendant of the Quebec Seminary, it has the distinction of being the first Francophone university of the Americas. Led by exacting standards, a spirit of innovation, and excellence in research, it has, over the years, trained and given degrees to over 280,000 people. Open on the world and committed to its work, University of Laval has a stimulating and passionate vision for the future to become one of the best universities in the world while remaining one of the standard bearers for preserving the French language and culture in North America. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that the Liberal government will take advantage of this important anniversary to confirm its participation in the creation of the Quebec Nordic Institute. Completely forgotten in the recent budget, this project, led by the University of Laval, brings together Quebec's expertise in Nordic and Arctic research. Thank you.
For Orleans.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, on behalf of the Minister of Environment, I attended a Parks Canada plaque unveiling ceremony at an Orleans secondary school commemorating the historical significance of the school's namesake, the Honourable Corinne Wilson, Canada's first female senator. Attendees were led by the students under Principal Tom McCartney, the students themselves of the high school, and the Monuments Board of Canada Chair, Dr. Richard Alway, and most notably, Senator Wilson Corinne's family, including Corinne Wilson and Janet Davies. Senator Wilson greatly contributed to the advancement of women in the public sphere. She was also a strong and passionate voice for the liberalization of immigration laws and the admission of refugees to Canada. Her work as a senator focused on promoting equal opportunities for women and their right to independence, a legacy that all Canadians can benefit from today. Remarkable Canadian for a remarkable country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Laurier, Sainte Marie. Mr. Speaker, the minister's announcement this week that Canada will finally ratify the UN Protocol on Torture is very welcome. However, we need to take concrete action. Far too often, Canada's policy allows torture and unacceptable treatment. Who could forget that Maher Arar was tortured after poor intelligence was provided by Canadian officials? And think of Omar Khadr, detained in Guantanamo Bay Prison, where Canadian officials participated in his interrogation without giving him access to a lawyer and knowing that he had been deprived of sleep. The Supreme Court itself said that these measures contravened basic Canadian standards for treating adolescent detainees. And the Supreme Court said, once again, that this was a clear violation of Canada's international human rights obligations.
Pontiac.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to express my condolences to the family of my assistant Françoise Lafrenière, whose father, Régent Lafrenière, recently passed away. Régent was a passionate politician. He was mayor of the municipality of Lac-Sainte-Marie in Pontiac for 22 years. He was then préfet of the RM of Vallée de la Gatineau for 6 years, and he was elected as a Liberal MNA in Quebec from 1989 until 2007. Through his great involvement in the Outaouais region, Régent made his mark, and all who had the privilege of knowing him will never forget him. It was an honor and a privilege to have known him, and I will never forget his generosity and advice as I began my political career. Few understand the spirit of the Gatineau Valley and the soul of its people as well as Régent did. To all the members of his family, I wish to offer my sincerest condolences.
The Honourable Member for Peace River Westlock.
Mr. Speaker, springtime is here. Our farmers are in their fields, assessing the moisture, gauging their yields. When rain is sparse and times are tough, the price of hay is especially rough. As Conservatives, we understand it takes hard work to till the land.
Yes, we do.
Alberta NDP passed a law for working on prairie farms, more expensive food. Don't care who it harms. They said, John Deere, we want your food, but only feed your cows when we're in the mood. No overtime or pay the price. Beef and pork will cost more than twice. We're standing up for family farms, feeding cows till 9. We're standing up for farmers working overtime.
Hear, hear.
You eat their beef, you sit on leather. Your feet are shoed in stormy weather. Without their food, life would be grim, unless you plan to be awfully thin. Family farms are getting fewer. Once they're gone, we're in deep manure. Don't egg me on, the yoke's on you. If farmers leave, what will we do? Bottom line, you want to eat? Support our farmers. Buy their wheat.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, on March 2nd, 2016, Ottawa lost a legendary community builder. Al Sakeley, the founder of Al's Steakhouse, passed away at the age of 87. The oldest of 3 children, he was born Halim Sakeley in the Bekaa Valley in central Lebanon. He worked as a labourer and a barber before moving to Canada in 1950. Once in Ottawa, he worked day and night at multiple dishwashing jobs, including at the Chateau Laurier, earning $12 a week. He saved every penny. 2 years later, he bought the Riverside Tea Room and married his longtime sweetheart, Jeanette. They were blessed with 4 children, Barbara, Jane, Gloria, and Sammy, 10 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. He opened Ottawa's iconic Al's Steakhouse in 1967. It remains an Ottawa institution, attracting locals and celebrities alike. The memory of this wonderful, caring man lives on with his family, his famous local restaurant, and with the community that he loved so much.
The Honourable Member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, this week I had the honour of attending the Canada North Community Awards, where some of Canada's exceptional volunteers were honoured, including Citizen of the Year, Reem Tarek, and nominees Kathy Briggs, Jen Muckler, Nicoletta, Jez Blomquist, Beata Myhill, Leanne Jo, and Bev Popik. Senior Citizen of the Year, Shirley Yakubuski Milligan, and nominees Kay Gibbons, Muta Gamian, Peijian Ma, Bing Jiang, and Jim Chiron. Youth Citizen of the Year, Jacob Maskiotra, and nominees Shreya, Sia, and Vansh Anand. Organization of the Year, Arcadia Community Association, led by Jessica Kuna and Danielle Kircherham. And nominees, the Matthew Houch Furniture Bank and the Canada Stocking Project. And a special community award winner, Madame Natalie Gay. Mr. Speaker, I am so honoured to serve the people of Canada Carleton, and I'm so very proud of all of our community volunteers.
The honourable member, l'honorable député.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, I would like today to honour all of the people who choose to be caregivers for family members, friends, or neighbours who need help due to aging, an accident, or illness. Every year, for 25 years now, organizations and caregiver groups are working in my riding. These groups allow those who benefit from their services to get through challenges that are part of their daily life, physical, moral challenges, as well as isolation. These 225 volunteers are people who have endless generosity and big hearts, and every day they improve the lives of people with special needs to allow them to continue to live in dignity. To end, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the regroupement, the caregiver group in Lotbinière, for their exceptional work and for their great message of hope in our community. Thank you.
Member for Mississauga Centre.
Mr. Speaker, far too many families are suffering through loss of contact between parents and children due to cross-border family disputes. May 25th will mark International Missing Children Day, and I would like to take this opportunity to reaffirm our government's commitment to addressing international child abduction. Our consular officials are currently providing support to almost 300 families. Canada has taken a leadership role to strengthen the HoC Convention on international child abduction. This week, Canadian officials are working hard at the 4th Malta Conference on cross-frontier child protection and family law to improve protection for the rights of children and their parents. Children are often victimized by unfortunate and sometimes illegal behavior. Governments across the world need to continue to work together to defend the interests of these helpless children. I call on my colleagues to support our officials' efforts in this significant matter.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to stand with all my colleagues in this House in support of everyone affected by the tragic forest fires in Fort McMurray, and in thanks of our first responders who have worked so courageously to keep our fellow Canadians safe. As many have noted so eloquently, Fort McMurray really is a community that has welcomed all Canadians. With the collapse of the cod fishery in the 90s, many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians headed west to work in the oil and gas industry, and when they arrived, they were welcomed with open arms in the Fort Mac area. This is a testament to the spirit of those in the community and of all Albertans. I want to ensure the fine residents of Fort McMurray they have the support of all Canadians at this difficult times, especially their colleagues and family on the Rock. I want to encourage all Canadians to donate as much as they can and when they can to the Red Cross to help our comrades through this horrific time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are well known for their willingness to give their time to help out in local communities, and this is as true in my riding as it is for any other. Today, I'd like to recognize the hard work and dedication of a number of my constituents who helped organize the Central Okanagan Rotary Food Drive for the Rotarians at Work Day on April 30th. I'm very proud to inform the House that this food drive collected over 12,000 pounds of food to support local families. Now, this is a fantastic example of how Canadians from different organizations can come together and make a real difference in our communities. In particular, I want to recognize the Central Okanagan and West Side Community Food Banks, the Rotary Clubs of the Central Okanagan, Investor Group West Kelowna, the West Kelowna Youth Ambassadors Program, Save on Foods, and everyone else who helped come together to make this a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Burnaby North, Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored to stand in the House today to invite all members and the public to participate in Science Odyssey, a 10-day celebration of Canadian achievement in science and technology. Today, the Minister of Science is in Vancouver to launch this great event and will open the doors of labs, museums, research facilities, and science centres right across the country, Mr. Speaker. I invite all parliamentarians to join the public and participate, whether it's observing the transition of planet Mercury on Space Day or encouraging young women and girls participation in STEM disciplines on Coding Day. And I encourage all of you to engage in events in your home ridings. Seeing science up close helps to foster a culture of innovation and to inspire young Canadians to pursue science-related careers. It also helps build appreciation for the role of good research in decision-making. Mr. Speaker, this is the time for each and every one of us to unleash our curiosity and join the Odyssey.
The honourable member for North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, we are at the beginning of the tourist season, but not all are rejoicing. Many members of North Island Powell River depend on propane, which is critical for the marinas, lodges, guides, and many residents. Transport Canada has decided to suspend the delivery of propane by barge to communities off the northern part of my riding. The government doesn't seem to understand the realities of rural coastal communities. Most of these locations are accessible only by boat and floatplane. Many have no roads at all, and the local topography simply does not allow for refueling to be conducted by truck. Propane is the lifeline for remote communities in my riding. It is their power supply, and in many cases, it is their means to make a living. This move is effectively cutting off electricity to communities and businesses in the region. I wish to express my constituents' need for a fair and expedient resolution to this matter.
The honourable member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 100 years ago, Canadian pilots played an extraordinary role in the air war over the Western Front. Consider this. There were 171 Canadian flying aces. Together, these pilots downed a total of 2,099 enemy aircraft. 24 Canadian aces had over 20 victories apiece, third among all the nations of the world. And among the best, the dozen pilots of all nations with more than 50 victories apiece, 4 were Canadians. This parade of heroes should have produced a litany of household names, but other than Billy Bishop, who now today is not forgotten. For example, how many Canadians know that Manfred von Richthofen, Germany's Red Baron, the ace of aces, was shot down by Canadian pilot Roy Brown in April 1918? The Roy Brown Society has been established to commemorate this heroic Canadian. The society hopes to lead a pilgrimage to the site of this, the most famous aerial dogfight in history, on the 100th anniversary of its occurrence in 1918. But in the meantime, let's all of us remember all of our great heroes of the air war 100 years ago.
The honourable member for Hull Aylmer.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to highlight Mental Health Week, which took place this week from May 2nd to 6th. This is an opportunity to raise awareness of the importance of our mental health. Every year, 1 person out of 5 in Canada will have to deal with mental illness. The theme this week, Speak Loud and Clear, invites us to speak out to eliminate stigma and discrimination associated with mental health and to speak out to raise awareness. We all know someone who has been affected by mental illness. By speaking out loud and clear, we can reduce the stigma around mental illness, which continues to surround us in Canada. Speak out and speak out loud, whether it be for a colleague, a member of your family, or yourself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Question orale. The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's trip to Washington was an even bigger abuse of taxpayers' money than we thought. The size of the delegation is a huge reason for the ballooning costs. He brought 44 people with him. And not only did this include everyone in his family, he also brought anyone who was even remotely liberal, all on the taxpayer's dime. And Mr. Speaker, in what universe is this entitled behavior considered ethical?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Leader of the House in the, let me start that over. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Leader in the Government of the House of Commons.
Yes, I know, Mr. Speaker, can be a mouthful at times. You know, it's important that we recognize, Mr. Speaker, that this was, in fact, the first official visit to the United States of a Canadian Prime Minister since 1997. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the relationship between Canada and the United States is our most important bilateral relationship. We have the longest and most peaceful and mutual beneficial relationship of any 2 countries since the birth of these 2 nations. The Prime Minister discussed the revitalization of the Canada-U.S. relationship and the importance of the closer relationship between Canada and the United States.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims this trip was to promote important Canada-U.S. ties, yet he used the taxpayer to bring family members that had no official business there whatsoever. The Prime Minister's celebrity-sized entourage apparently didn't have room for ministers with actual responsibilities. With so many important bilateral issues at stake, can the Prime Minister explain why he had room for his in-laws, but not the Minister of Natural Resources?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, former Conservative Prime Minister Brian Mulroney has said that the most important foreign policy priority for a Canadian Prime Minister is to have a personal relationship with the President of the United States. It would appear that our Prime Minister has heeded that advice. He has built a strong relationship with President Obama, and perhaps if the former Conservative Prime Minister, the most immediate Conservative Prime Minister, had done the same, he would have been able to get projects like Keystone XL approved.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Well, I guess his in-laws have more experience in some files than his actual ministers in his cabinet.
Mr. Speaker, this is worrisome. Playing with taxpayers' money and photo ops is now something, and now family vacations covered as official business. The Prime Minister said that there was no room in the party for official ministers of the Crown. It's more important for him, apparently, to promote the values of his party than those of Canada. How can they defend this behavior?
L'honorable Président.
The Honourable President of Treasury Board. Mr. Speaker, this is an odd way of the Conservatives to attack family values. It's very important for the Prime Minister and for his family to be united, because it's also important to promote relations between Canada and the United States. And that's exactly what we are going to continue to do to defend our relationship with the United States.
Before proceeding to the next speaker or the next member, I just want to remind the members in the hall that there is a process and it usually goes through the speaker. So if you don't mind refraining while the other person is speaking, I would certainly appreciate that. The honourable member for Portage-Lisker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's not just all of these vanity trips. It's the Liberals' unbelievable sense of entitlement. Yes. Let's be honest, the Prime Minister has never actually needed to work a day in his life. Yet he feels it's completely acceptable to take money from hardworking mums and dads and get special privileges. How can he justify Canadian families being forced to pay $100,000 a year for his nannies while Canadian families have to pay for their own child care?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. I'll just leave it at that. It's a lot easier to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like all families of the Prime Ministers, a small number of staff provide assistance. Given the nature of the Prime Minister's responsibilities and his young family, they employ 2 household employees who, in addition to performing other duties around the house, act as secondary caregivers to the 3 children. It should come as no surprise that the Prime Minister has a different family situation with 3 young children than the previous Prime Minister's family did. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Portage-Lisker.
Mr. Speaker, while the Prime Minister was campaigning, he said that millionaire families like his did not need taxpayer-funded childcare. Yeah. But as soon as he was elected, he stripped Canadian families of the universal childcare benefit and gave himself $100,000 a year childcare benefits. Mr. Speaker, why is the Liberal Prime Minister so focused on getting benefits for himself and his family and his Liberal buddies?
Yeah. The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted that the honourable member brought up the issue of child benefits. In fact, the Canada Child Benefit, which we introduced in our budget, will in fact help the Canadian families who need the help the most. A family making $40,000 a year in Canada with 2 kids will be $4,000 better off under our Canada Child Benefit. A single parent making $30,000 a year will be over $6,000 better off than they were under the Conservative government. A family making $90,000 $1,000 a year with 2 kids will be $2,500 better off than under the former government.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly.
First, the Prime Minister promised to, and I quote, restore home mail delivery. Then the Prime Minister bizarrely accused the NDP of fabricating the quote. The problem for him is we've actually got it on tape. Now, we learn that one of the 4 people appointed to their new task force sits on the board of Shoppers Drug Mart, a company with direct financial interest in postal services. There's a term for this, Mr. Speaker, one Liberals are quite familiar with, conflict of interest. Will the Minister agree to replace this member of her hand-picked task force for Canada Post?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services.
Mr. Speaker, it's as simple as this. It was a promise made and a promise kept. Our party committed during the campaign to undertake review, ensuring that Canadians receive quality postal services at a reasonable price, and yesterday we did just that. The 4-person independent task force will prepare a discussion paper that presents viable options for Canada Post services, and Canadians are at the centre of the decisions we make, and I encourage all members to get involved in this process.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly.
Needed is of the tape of the Prime Minister promising to restore home mail delivery.
Mr. Speaker, summer is almost upon us, but we can just see that the Prime Minister's sunny ways have gone out the window. During the campaign, he said that we commit to restoring home mail delivery. People expect a certain service, and we're going to deliver it to them. Once in power, that morphs into everything's on the table. In other words, bye-bye home delivery. Is the Prime Minister not ashamed of having abused of Canadians and broken an election promise?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services.
It's this government's job to ensure that we have an open and transparent and independent review to ensure that Canadians are receiving the services that they need from Canada Post at a reasonable price. This 4-person independent task force will prepare a discussion paper and present all the viable options for Canada Post. And following this, a parliamentary committee will engage with Canadians on this important question from coast to coast to coast and will report back by the end of the year. This is a very important review, and it will be one that we hope that all members of this House and all Canadians will be proud to take part in.
The Honourable Member for Churchill, Kiiwetinoong-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, a Statistics Canada study this week tells us that over the last 30 years, it has become much more difficult for Canadians to climb the revenue ladder. The wealthy remain wealthy and the poor remain poor. This is the record of successive Conservative and Liberal governments. And even this Liberal budget does not deal with inequalities. When will the Liberals reverse the trend and truly address the growing inequalities across the country?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
It's clear that income inequality is a problem in Canada and elsewhere, and it is a priority for our government to provide benefits for the middle class and also for families that need a lot of assistance. For example, in our budget, we've provided the Canada Child Benefit, which will greatly help Canadian families who need help and will continue to do so. Honourable Member for Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski.
Tax changes only benefit the wealthiest of Canadians. They also broke their promise on closing the stock option loophole, which benefits the wealthiest of CEOs. Liberals seem to hope that if they talk about inequality, people will get distracted from the fact that they're not actually doing anything about inequality. So with a new Stats Can report showing us that income inequality is on the rise, will Liberals now take concrete action to deal with this growing crisis? And will they close the stock option loophole for the wealthiest of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government recognizes all of the importance that we have to dedicate to tax avoidance and internationally as well. In terms of the Panama Papers file, I asked my officials to get the list of Canadian taxpayers, and I'm pleased to inform the House that the data are already in the possession of the agency. This is a global issue, and Canada is working with the international community.
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, Anna Gainey is the president of the Liberal Party. She's not a parliamentarian, she's not a cabinet minister, she's not even a diplomat. She doesn't have a thing to do with the business of the government, or at least she's not supposed to. So why did the Prime Minister think it appropriate to give special access in Washington for Liberal insiders like Mrs. Gainey?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Leader... I can't get that one right. Sorry. Parliamentary Secretary, the Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, if I may, just to emphasize just how important it was. This was, in fact, the first official visit to the United States of a Canadian Prime Minister, as I said earlier, since 1997. Look in terms of what it is that was actually accomplished. The Canadian delegation engaged our American counterparts on many files, including climate change, environment and energy, international security, defense cooperation, the Global Coalition Against ISIL, border cooperation, trade and commercial relationships, Mr. Speaker. There was a lot of good work done on behalf of all Canadians, Mr. Speaker, with that trip.
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal family vacation gets a lot better. Stephen Bronfman is the top bagman for the Liberal Party. His job is to raise money for the Liberal partisan politics as long as it remains separate from the business of the government. But the Prime Minister saw nothing inappropriate about inviting Bronfman down to Washington for cocktails and canopies at the White House. Can anyone on that side of the House explain what possible government business the chief fundraiser for the Liberal Party had in Washington?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest to the member that he realize that he gets really on focus with what Canadians want. They recognize that there is a need for an important relationship to be established between the United States and Canada. This is a Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, that is...
Okay, now that it's quiet, we can continue. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
This Prime Minister has recognized the importance of the bilateral relationship between Canada and the United States and has made great strides in making a difference in improving that bilateral relationship, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives should actually be applauding the government for its actions. Within 6 months, we've been able to accomplish so much.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, it would appear that the Minister of International Trade does not have a monopoly on debatable travel. Yesterday we learned that when the Prime Minister went to the White House, he went with Liberal Party employees, the in-laws, and his children's caregivers. Mr. Speaker, as the government claims to be stuck on transparency, can they explain to Canadians why it was necessary to bring 44 people to Washington, and what was their official role?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm going to go back to the idea that the Conservatives are really out of queue in regards to the benefits of this particular trip that was taken. At the end of the day, we need to recognize the importance of having a strong, healthy relationship with our neighbours to the south. This is something in which this government takes very seriously, and this is something in which we have seen a great deal of cooperation between the different ministries and what's taking place in Ottawa. The government is making a genuine effort to try to get a more enriched middle class by looking at broadening the relationship between Canada and
the Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, out of 36 million Canadians, only the members across the way find this extravagance normal. For the man in the street, it makes no sense to bring Liberal Party employees on an official trip. They have no They have nothing to do with government administration. Can the government explain to Canadians what official role the Chief Revenue Officer of the Liberal Party, Mr. Stephen Bronfman, played within the Canadian delegation?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, let me emphasize in terms of the benefits of that particular trip. The Canadian delegation engaged our American counterparts on many different files. Mr. Speaker, whether it was dealing with the issue of climate change, environment and energy, international security, defense cooperation, the global coalition against ISIL, border cooperation and trade and commercial relations. Mr. Speaker, this was an important trip to be made. Canadians realize that. The only ones that don't seem to realize the benefits is the Conservative Party, and that's most unfortunate, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier. Mr. Speaker, one senses that some members across the way are ill at ease today. They must be wondering what they did wrong to not be the only ones not invited to go to Washington. On top of the Chief Revenue Officer, the national president of the Liberal Party, Anna Gainey, was also part of the delegation. Mr. Speaker, the president of a national political party has no role to play within government administration. How can the Liberals defend the relevancy of bringing the president of the Liberal Party of Canada to Washington?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, again, what I'm going to do is request the opposition to regain focus on what's really important, to recognize that this was, in fact, the first official visit to the United States by a Canadian Prime Minister since 1997. Mr. Speaker, the relationship between Canada and the United States is our most important bilateral relationship. We have the longest, most peaceful and mutually beneficial relationship of any two countries since the birth of the nation-state. The Prime Minister discussed the revitalization of Canada-U.S. relationship and the importance of a closer partnership between Canada.
Before continuing, I would like to remind the members that when someone is speaking, if you have a discussion that's important, perhaps you could just keep it between yourselves, outside, whisper perhaps, instead of speaking so loudly. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like the question to be listened to. We're having considerable difficulty getting answers from the government this morning, like all other mornings. And the reason is simple. There are no good answers, Mr. Speaker. We'll give them another chance. We know what the role of a Prime Minister is during an official visit, but, Mr. Speaker, what was the role of the President of the Liberal Party of Canada, of the Chief Revenue Officer, and of the Prime Minister's in-laws during this trip?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's not my fault if the member doesn't like the answer per se. At the end of the day, I believe that Canadians should be first of mind. And at the end of the day, I believe that they recognize the value of that particular trip. The Canadian delegation engaged our American counterparts on many different files. As I indicated, Mr. Speaker, that included climate change, environment and energy, international security, defense and cooperation, the global coalition against ISIL, border cooperation and trade, and the commercial.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski, Neigette, Témiscouata, Les Basques. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are quite right to be frustrated with the KPMG story and the Canada Revenue Agency. They've just finished paying their fair share of taxes, and they expect that everyone else should do the same thing. On the one hand, KPMG is helping millionaires to hide their money, and on the other hand, the agency is giving them an amnesty after having caught them. Mr. Speaker, enough is enough. To get to the bottom of things, we will need to have an in-depth study. Will the Liberals stop sweeping this under the rug and protecting KPMG? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, indeed, enough isn't enough. Canadians from the middle class paid their taxes, but some fortunate people are avoiding paying their fair share. It's unacceptable and must change. Mr. Speaker, our government committed to fighting against tax evasion and tax avoidance, and we have given historically high budgets to the agency to work on these issues. I have the privilege, Mr. Speaker, of tabling our government's commitments to my colleagues on May 19th at the Finance Committee. And I want to reassure all Canadians that...
For Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, this government continues to defend sweetheart deals for multimillionaires caught using offshore tax havens. Yesterday, the Prime Minister refused again to answer whether these tax evaders and their KPMG scam artists will face criminal charges. Mr. Speaker, we must restore faith in the fairness of our tax system and send a message that special treatment for the wealthy and well-connected will not be allowed to stand. Will the government bring criminal charges against all those involved in this tax evasion scandal?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, the agency is continuing its investigations of the people identified in the KPMG story, and the massive investments in the last budget will allow us to block the way for people to create such strategies for the wealthy in the future. And I want to point out that I have asked my officials to get the list of Canadian taxpayers who are on it, and I'm very pleased to inform the House that the data is in the possession of the agency. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haut-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the government cut the defence budget by $3.7 billion. The Liberals iced projects already underway, such as the acquisition of offshore patrol vessels and Cyclone helicopters. Will the Minister take advantage of the visit to Montreal and Valcartier to explain to our troops why the Liberals made these cuts that put the security of our Canadians and soldiers at risk?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his question. The premise of his question is absolutely incorrect. The deferment of funds was entirely due to the inability of the previous government to match fiscal cycles with procurement cycles. As a consequence, that money that he references has actually been pushed off to future years and available to equip the men and women in uniform in the manner that they need to be, unlike the previous government.
The Honourable Member of Charlebourg-Haut-Saint-Charles. I'd like to emphasize that our Conservative government was the one that acquired the C-17, Globemasters, the Cyclones, the Hercules, Chinooks, and Leopards. That's a lot of equipment that they bought for our men and women in uniform. My question is simple. Will the Minister, who is traveling to Montreal and Valcartier today, explain to our military the $3.7 billion cuts that was supposed to be for material and that endangers their life, safety, and security?
Minister of National Defence.
The only explanation here that needs to be given, Mr. Speaker, seems to be to the Conservative Party, because the military understands that in order to be able to have the equipment that they need, the fiscal cycle and the procurement cycle need to match. This has been an ongoing problem under the previous government. We continue to work on this so that when we have procurements that need to be funded, they'll be funded at the appropriate time, and that is exactly what the budget says. I regret that the honourable member doesn't seem to be able to understand that matter.
The honourable member for Flamborough-Glenbrook.
Mr. Speaker, we know the regime that leads Iran exports terror, supports terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, imprisons, tortures, and executes their own people and others. Mr. Speaker, this regime does not even have the decency to return the remains of Canadian citizen Zahra Ghazami. If the Minister of Foreign Affairs isn't willing to stand up to a regime like this, then what does he stand for?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I regret the tone of the question. Having said that, the world needs more Canada, and Canada is better off with increasing engagement in the world. So this is a harder choice than the previous government's choice. That means if we want to be effective in promoting human rights, including in Iran, we need to engage with our allies with our eyes wide open. So Mr. Speaker, our allies are re-engaging with Iran, and I don't know why the Conservatives want us to stand alone on the sideline, but what we're doing is better for Canadians, is better for our allies, and it's better for the people of Iran.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary secretary seems to think that we need an ambassador in Iran just to talk to the Iranians. And yet, when it comes to talking about human rights, they have killed the role of an ambassador responsible specifically for that, the role of the ambassador for religious freedom. Now, the Iranian people need the work of the Office of Religious Freedom now more than ever. So why are the Liberals opening an embassy in Iran where Canadian diplomats may well be at risk, while closing an office that actually had the capacity to address vital human rights issues?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it is precisely because of our commitment to human rights that we are engaging more effectively in the world. The promotion and protection of human rights, including freedom of religion, is very important for our government. Mr. Speaker, the Foreign Affairs Minister, when he was in Burma just recently, he announced a $44 million investment for the promotion of democracy and the protection of human rights, including ethnic minorities. So we are continuing our important effort in promoting human rights, including freedom of religion, domestically and abroad.
The honourable member for North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, this government will shut down the Comox Marine Communications and Traffic Service Centre on May 10th. But the Fisheries Committee heard alarming testimony demonstrating real concerns for safety. And the BC Minister of State for Emergency Preparedness seems to agree. She wrote to the Fisheries Minister sharing her concerns on closing Comox because it's critical to BC's emergency preparedness plans. Will this minister listen to his BC colleague, witness testimony, and concern parliamentarians and keep Comox open?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries, Ocean and Coast Guards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased that the Standing Committee on Fisheries and Oceans has recognized that marine safety remains a top priority, even with the consolidation of Comox. Mr. Speaker, I am in receipt of the letter that the member references, and I'd like to quote from it, from the Minister of State of Emergency and Preparedness. She says, Mr. Speaker, the province values the cooperation and beneficial relationship that we have with the Canadian Coast Guard and the staff who work hard to keep our residents and waterways safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
Earlier this week, Regina's Evraz Steel Mill announced more layoffs. And today, Statistics Canada reported that the number of unemployed workers in Saskatchewan has exploded by 49% in the last year. Yet when this government had a chance to do something in the budget, they chose not to help. Liberals excluded Regina and southern Saskatchewan from extended EI benefits. Why are the Liberals turning a blind eye to workers and families in our community?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the question from my colleague across, and obviously we're concerned about the EI rate. We're concerned about the EI rate in southern Saskatchewan, and indeed all those 12 regions that we've already taken action for. Today's numbers that have been released, I think it reflects the sharp, sustained downward trend in commodity prices. Our minister is looking at those numbers now and working with her officials as we speak.
The honourable member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the President of the Treasury Board issued an interim directive on the administration of the Access to Information Act. This directive delivers on key commitments to make government more open and transparent. Can the President of the Treasury Board please explain the directive and tell the House how this will help open up government and improve access to information right away?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Newmarket Aurora for his work on open government. This directive sends a strong message across federal institutions that government information belongs to the people we serve and should be open by default. It also directs federal officials to waive all fees for access to information apart from the $5 filing fee and to release information in more user-friendly formats such as Excel spreadsheets whenever possible. This is an important step for the Government of Canada. We are taking this step because we are committed to revitalizing and strengthening access to information.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, good palliative care encompasses hospice and home care, end-of-life care, and psychological care. Studies have shown that where good palliative care exists, 95% of people choose to live as well as they can for as long as they can. But sadly, these services are not all paid for by government, and so for many places in our country, this choice is not available. In light of the assisted suicide legislation, when will the Minister of Health follow through on her promise of $3 billion to make palliative care a covered service?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we know that there is more to do to provide Canadians end-of-life care. Canadians have told us they want to stay independent and receive care at home, including at the end of their lives. As part of the new Health Accord, Mr. Speaker, the government has committed to providing $3 billion over the next 4 years to improve home care, including palliative care. In collaboration with provinces and territories, we will move forward on shared health priorities, including examining ways to integrate and expand access to palliative care at home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
So I'll expect to see palliative care mentioned in C14. Mr. Speaker, the health minister said her priority was palliative care for $3 billion. However, she's spending her time and government resources right now on legalizing marijuana. Is marijuana a bigger priority for our aging population than palliative care? Is it worthy of her attention now, or is her palliative care initiative going to pot?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, it is important that Canadians will have a good, peaceful, and dignified life until the very end. For that purpose, we will make sure that Canadians have access to palliative care services that they need. We will do so in participation with our colleagues in our provinces and territories, and this is something that we'll be talking about, looking forward to talking with our colleagues on the other side in the future.
The honourable member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, due to the legal uncertainty created by the Liberal promise to legalize marijuana, grow-ups are sprouting up in my riding. This is causing significant health concerns, especially for our children. Can the minister explain exactly how the Liberals plan to keep this product out of the hands of children when it could be available on every street corner?
They can't explain it.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government has been very clear that we intend to introduce a comprehensive and responsible framework of regulation for the strict control of marijuana in its production, distribution, and its consumption. Our intent in these regulations will be to keep it away from children, to prevent organized crime, to continuing to profit from it, to make our communities safe, and to assure the health of all Canadians. To that end, we will shortly be announcing a task force which will have expertise from the legal community, the health community, and the law enforcement community to enable the government to move forward and to assure that...
The honourable member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, Colorado has had legalized marijuana for over a year now, and we've started to see the statistics that show the dangers of their decision. According to Reuters, over 40 children were taken to a poison control center after they picked up colorful sweets laced with strong doses of marijuana that their parents had left laying around. The government has said they want to protect children through legalizing marijuana. Can the health minister explain exactly how she plans to do that?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the member's question opposite illustrates precisely the reason why this government feels it is so necessary to change the current regime for the control of marijuana and replace it with something far more comprehensive, far more responsible, and quite frankly, far more effective. We believe that through strict regulation, we will be able to restrict access that children have by being able to control the manner in which it is retailed and consumed in this country. We can do a far better job than the current criminal sanction.
The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
The feds told
boat the vessel Silver King from one riding to mine a month ago now. Now it's rotting right off Ladysmith's community dock, and dozens of abandoned vessels cram the harbour already. Local business, Ladysmith Council, Seminas First Nation all warn this will harm local community and economy. This is a growing issue for our coast. Yep. Yet the government is shuffling the problem from one community to another. When will this government remove abandoned vessels from Ladysmith's harbour?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Fisheries, Oceans and Coast Guard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member for that question. Mr. Speaker, when that vessel was reported, the Coast Guard was deployed to respond to a pollution threat by the Silver King. They began pumping water from the vessel. They concluded that the vessel was no longer seaworthy and beyond repair. They moved the vessel to a different location, and prior to deconstruction, Mr. Speaker, scheduled for later this month, the vessel will be cleaned and removed of hazardous materials and potential pollutants. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says that making gender equality and work-life balance is a priority, but workplace daycares will have to close shortly because of the government's decision to stop subsidizing their rent costs. So the government will be abandoning the parents of children at the CPE Guy Favreau in Montreal and here in Ottawa at the Tunney's Pasture Childcare Facility. What are the Liberals, in fact, waiting for to reverse this regressive decision made by the Conservatives?
Le ministre des Familles en...
The Honourable Minister.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to thank the Honourable Member for her question. I share with her the importance of ensuring that Canadians have access to quality, inclusive, flexible childcare services. As the Honourable Member has said, we are working very hard with the provinces and territories to ensure that Canada plays a leadership role on these initiatives. I will, in the months to come, have the pleasure of announcing very specific measures to this House.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Health stated this week that the problem of tamper-resistant opioids, if it is applied only to a single drug, will not solve the problem. Well, the real problem that needs to be solved, Mr. Speaker, is why she and the Liberals have abandoned regulations that would require oxycodone, fentanyl, and morphine opioids in Canada to become tamper-resistant before being approved for sale in Canada. Mr. Speaker, will the Minister of Health please revisit the issue of tamper-resistant regulations to stop dangerous opioid abuse in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a registered nurse myself, we are keenly aware of the damage being done to families and communities right across Canada by the abuse of prescription drugs. We know how complex this issue is. As part of our comprehensive approach, our government strongly supports opioid manufacturers who wish to take proactive measures to make their medication harder to abuse. Health Canada will continue to work with the industry and healthcare providers to identify further tools and interventions that can help address this growing problem.
The Honourable Member for Peace River Westlock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Another day, and the Liberals break another promise to Canadians. Post-secondary education is critical for improving quality of life and opportunities for Indigenous youth. The Liberals promised to help the First Nations and Inuit students through post-secondary student support program. But, Mr. Speaker, instead of keeping their promises, the Liberals are moving in the other direction. Why did the Liberals break their promise to Indigenous students, and why are they cutting staff from the program?
The Honourable Minister for Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the member for his question and for the excellent opportunity we had at committee yesterday and for his good questions there. As you know, the post-secondary education is a really important part of moving students out of poverty and into the labour force. I am working with my my colleague, the Minister of Child and Family, to make sure that the historic changes from loans to grants will be available for First Nations students, and we hope that we will also work together in the partnership.
The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, Saskatchewan's economy continues to suffer under the Liberals. Job numbers today show job losses in April, and another 200 jobs were lost again this past week in Regina. The member from Wascana failed to protect the 200 steelworkers at Regina's Everest facility who were laid off this week. The Liberals have created a toxic investment climate in Canada and showing that Canada is closed for business. When are they going to start supporting Canadian energy industry so that the workers and other Canadians can get back to work?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. As we have said many times in this House, the job of our government is to get our natural resources to market. We will continue to work with the National Energy Board in providing the resources that they require to ensure that we have a fulsome and comprehensive review of all major projects that ensure that we are protecting our environment while growing our economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, everyone is saddened by the devastation in Fort McMurray. It is clear that we all have a role to play in helping this community get back on its feet. Many will be looking for immediate support, including access to employment insurance, pension payments, old age support, and other support services. Mr. Speaker, can the government please tell us what this government is doing to ensure that people of Fort McMurray have the support and resources they need? Thank you.
L'Honorable Ministre.
The Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Social Development.
And let me thank the member for this very important question. All Canadians stand by the people of Alberta and Fort McMurray in this terrible catastrophe. Our government is committed to helping Canadians affected by this forest fire and is concerned about the health and safety of workers and families. Service Canada is making every effort possible to provide direct support and assistance, which can be obtained by calling 1-800-ALL-CANADA, online at servicecanada.gc.ca or at Service Canada centres in areas outside of those evacuated.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The other day I raised the Como case dealing with the right for people to bring beer freely into New Brunswick. Conservatives support this decision and think it's absolutely ridiculous that in Canada you can't bring beer from one province to another. So my question is for the Minister of Justice. Has the Minister examined this case, and does she agree with the judgment?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the honourable member for his question. Of course, internal trade is a very important priority for this government, as it is a key platform for growth in the economy between provinces all across the country. And we are actively working with our provincial territorial counterparts to make sure that we can have freer trade. There is goodwill and commitment to get this job done, and we look forward to achieving a real renewed agreement in the future. And Mr. Speaker, we support the notion of having open markets, to having freer trade in alcohol.
L'Honorable Député de Ville-Marie.
The Honourable Member for Ville-Marie, Île-des-Sœurs, Sud-Ouest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Technology Demonstration Program aims to promote early research development for technology design. It supports cooperation between the private sector, universities, and research institutions. Growing the economy in the 21st century needs this type of critically important initiative. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development tell the House about the advantages of this program?
Secrétaire Parliament.
The Parliamentary Secretary for Innovation, Science and Economic Development. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague, the member for Ville-Marie, Le Sud-Ouest, Île-des-Sœurs, for the question. Yesterday, we were in Ville-Marie to announce a $5 million contribution to MBA Systems in Montreal. Thanks to this support, MDA and its partners will develop and test next-generation satellites. This will lead to better research and search and rescue services by satellite, and it will make it possible to process data more quickly.
Toon Grasswood.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a year ago, Saskatchewan had the lowest unemployment rate in the entire country. What a big change we've seen in the last 365 days. Just last month, Cameco announced the layoffs of over 500 workers at their Rabbit Lake mine, which affects, by the way, hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses in our province. We all know firsthand in Saskatchewan, EI is not the solution. We all know we need job creation, not job-killing taxes. So, Mr. Speaker, why are the Liberals going to reverse their job-killing?
The Honourable Minister, or the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Small Business and Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague across the way for the question, because we love to talk about small business on this side. Our government is committed to ensuring tax fairness and to making sure every Canadian pays his or her share. All our measures are meant to encourage and support small business owners. They're creating good jobs for the middle class, and they're growing our economy for the long term, Mr. Speaker. What small businesses need more than anything is a strong, thriving economy. And that's the kind of environment our government is working through to create smart, necessary, and prudent investments in our economy, in our communities, and in our middle class, Mr.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, as French is losing ground in Quebec, the federal government continues to give millions of dollars to lobby groups like the Quebec Community Groups Network. For 40 years, the federal government has been providing massive subsidies to Anglophone institutions that are overdeveloped in Quebec, and is hardly even providing minimal amounts for Francophone and Acadian communities. Does the minister realize that this policy is anglicizing Quebec and proves that only independence can guarantee the future of French in Quebec?
L'Honorable Ministre.
The Honourable Minister for International Development and the Francophonie. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to reiterate that our government and our Minister of Canadian Heritage is very committed to official languages. This is a very important issue for us, and we are going to continue working through all of our departments and various programs in order to ensure that that is respected. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, last week marked the 100th day that the Minister of Canadian Heritage has been closely following the issue of cuts to Quebec lifestyle TV programs. Now, these shows, Mr. Speaker, are uniquely Quebecois, but tighter criteria with respect to applications for the Canadian Film and Video Production Tax Credits are continuing to threaten their survival. But it's not the criteria that have changed. The directives given to officials in the department. The minister herself is from Quebec. Will she finally tell her...
L'Honorable Ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
Nationale.
The Honourable Minister for International Development and the Francophonie. Mr. Speaker, we are very much aware of issues under federal and provincial jurisdiction. Canadian Heritage carries out its duties respecting those areas of jurisdiction.
L'Honorable Député de...
The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec National Assembly has voted unanimously at least 6 times and spoken out against a Canadian Securities Commission. 6 times Quebec officials from all political stripes have said no. But yesterday again, the federal government published a draft Capital Market Stability Act. Now, are the 40 Quebec members on the government bench finally going to put their foot down and defend the Quebec consensus and defend Quebec's exclusive jurisdiction in this area? Please.
Seems nobody wants to answer this one. There we go. Okay. L'Honorable Ministre des Familles, Enfants et des...
The Honourable Minister for Families and Social Development. I'd like to thank the member opposite for his question. We have 2 objectives for Canada, working together, and secondly, working for the well-being of our fellow citizens. But to work together, we need to respect areas of provincial jurisdiction. We know that this is a voluntary project. We will be fully respecting Quebec's areas of jurisdiction. For the provinces that want to work separately on a Securities Commission, we are going to be there to work alongside them.
This ends the question period for the day. We'll go on to daily routine of business, tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the House Leader.
Pursuant to Standing Order 36, Bracket 8, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government response to one petition.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and pursuant to Standing Order 32.2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaty entitled Paris Agreement under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, signed in New York on April 22nd, 2016. And explanatory notes accompany this treaty.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Monsieur le Président,